Welcome to this explainer, everyone. We're going to dive right in today because we're looking at a truly remarkable piece of literature. I mean, it's a story that captures a sudden, just absolutely heartbreaking cultural disruption. We're exploring Alphonse Daudet's incredibly emotionally charged story, The Last Lesson. And this isn't just a simple tale about a kid's school day. It's a really profound look at what happens when the very words you use to speak, to think, and to connect with your community are suddenly outlawed. We're going to unpack the whole shebang, the plot, the underlying themes, and of course, the deep emotional impact this story delivers. To really get the weight of this story, we've got to drop right into the stark, cruel, geopolitical reality that kicks this entire narrative into gear. Alsace is ordered to only teach German. Imagine waking up one morning to find out that a sudden mandate has just swept across your region, fundamentally changing your everyday life. This isn't some gradual, slow shift, right? It's a direct, external force imposing a totally new reality. The region of Alsace has just lost its right to use its native tongue in the classroom. And this single devastating order, that's the engine driving our entire story.
Section 1. The Franco-Prussian War.
So we can trace this tragic chain of events step by step. Let's walk through it. Number 1, over the past year, France is defeated. Then, number 2, just a few days ago, the political fallout hits the regional level as Alsace is ordered to teach German. That brings us to number 3, a specific morning hour where a young French student named Franz arrives late. And finally, number 4, leading us right up to the present minute, the final lesson begins. We're basically watching a massive national defeat narrow all the way down into the fateful morning of one unsuspecting boy.
Section 2. Late to school.
So, Franz arrives late. He's rushing to school, probably completely out of breath. And mostly, he's just worried about getting in trouble with his teacher. He's entirely unaware of the massive geopolitical shift that's just invaded his quiet little classroom. To him, he thinks this is just another ordinary, maybe slightly stressful school morning. He's a kid, wrapped up in his own small world and completely oblivious to the fact that his world has actually just ended. Which leads us to ask, what happens when Franz finally arrives? Put yourself in his shoes for a second. You're late, you're totally expecting a scolding, you push open the heavy wooden door to your classroom, and what do you see? I want you to anticipate the profound heartbreak waiting for Franz just on the other side of that door. The dramatic irony here is just incredibly thick. We know the historical context, but poor Franz, he has absolutely no idea what's about to hit him. Section 3. The final French lesson. Walking in, Franz makes 2 shocking discoveries that instantly shatter his ordinary routine. First, he learns that this is it. It is his final French lesson. The mandate has officially arrived. Second, and honestly, perhaps even more jarring for a young student, the village adults are already there. They're just sitting quietly in the back of the classroom. In an absolute instant, that mundane worry about being late, it vanishes. It's completely replaced by the crushing realization that everything he knows has changed. And right at the center of this heartbreaking scene is M. Hamel, Franz's French teacher, leading his final class before the German mandate takes effect. M. Hamel really transforms in this moment. He isn't just a strict schoolteacher anymore. He becomes this tragic, incredibly solemn figure. He's acting as the very last pillar of the village's fading cultural identity, standing at the front of the room, holding the line for their language one last time. The atmosphere in that room is just incredibly heavy. The village adults attend to pay their respects to Hamel and their lost culture. These are the elders of the community, literally sitting in children's desks at the back of the room. And they aren't there to learn how to read or write, right? They are there in mourning. They're paying tribute to a man who dedicated his life to teaching their language, and they're grieving a culture that's actively being stripped away from them by foreign power. Section 4. The value of language. So Franz's entire worldview shifts in an instant. Before today, his language and his freedom were totally taken for granted. They were viewed merely as a chore, just annoying schoolwork. But suddenly, that's replaced by a realization of immense value and profound loss. Through the pure shock of this final lesson, Franz's careless attitude is instantly gone. He realizes he's actively losing a freedom he didn't even know he cherished until the exact moment it was taken away. The absolutely crucial realization here is the immense value of his language. You see, Daudet's story isn't just some dry historical recounting of the Franco-Prussian War. It is a deeply emotional argument that our native language is intrinsically tied to our freedom, to our identity, and to our human spirit. When you lose the right to your language, you lose a fundamental piece of your autonomy. And Franz learns this lesson not over years of study, but in a single, agonizing morning. Which leaves us with this final, lingering question. If you lost your freedom tomorrow, how much would you value your language today? I challenge you to step into Franz's shoes for just a moment. Look around at your cultural freedoms, the ways you express yourself, the everyday things you might currently be taking completely for granted. Dode's brilliant story reminds us that sometimes it actually takes the pain of a final lesson to truly understand what we've had all along. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks a new appreciation for the words you use every single day.